Yo, what's cracking, folks? Welcome to episode number 16 of The Painter and the Pixie. I am one of your hosts, Jeremy Vassar, and I will be joined shortly by my wife, Serina, the Pixie, and our two guests this week. I apologize for those watching on YouTube. There's no video for the intro and the outro this episode, just because we did a larger production, because we had guests on, we had two cameras and lights and all kinds of stuff, and then I had to shift things around back to the photo studio to take the thumbnail pic, and now I'm doing the outro and intro all by my lonesome. But fear not, there is video and everything for the actual meat of the podcast. Just hang in there with me. So yeah, this week on the podcast, we have Tim and Angie Moyer on the show, and they're both absolute studs in the world of strength and conditioning. Tim has been my strength coach for, I think, going on 12 years now. And then Angie is his wife, and she is one of the head strength coaches at Princeton University. They kind of go over their bona fides right in the beginning of the podcast. We had a really good time talking to them. I love having them on the show. I had them on my previous podcast, and just always a good time hanging out and talking with them. We tried to stay on topic. We veered off here and there and everywhere, but we went over some really good stuff with starting out with basic strength and conditioning, some kind of mistakes that people make, going too hard, too fast, and a few other things in there, but that's pretty much what we chatted about, and it was a great time. I enjoyed our conversation immensely, and I think you guys will as well. So without further ado, please give it up for Tim and Angie Moyer.
This is only the beginning.
All right, ready?
Ready?
What you're going to hear about today is nothing short of a miracle.
Well, I don't believe it.
Let's find out. Ready, set, go.
Ooh, buddy. Yo, what's going on, Moyers? How we doing?
Excellent.
Great.
Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it. So you guys are kind of the first official guests on the Painter and the Pixie.
Oh, wow.
I had my brother fill in
when I was gone.
like 2 weeks ago, but he was like a co-host guest, not like a guest.
He did a pretty nice job.
Yeah. He's all right. He's doing all
Fun
right.
to listen to.
So now Angie and Tim, you guys have both been on my previous podcast, but some of the listeners that now listen to this show don't know who you guys are. So I thought we'd start by making some introductions as far as like why we know you and who you are and so forth. Tim, would you like to proceed first?
I guess so. I was going to say ladies first, but she deferred.
She's pointing at you.
Well, my name is Tim Moyer, certified strength and conditioning coach. I have a master's in exercise physiology. I currently work as the head volleyball coach for what is now Jefferson University.
Oh, they changed it.
It used to be Philadelphia University. People may know it as Philadelphia Textile. That took place officially this summer. So, Yep, all new gear. That's good.
Nice.
Fun.
Gear is good.
All new stuff.
Tim
Yeah.
loves gear.
Free swag.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked in strength and conditioning for probably 20 plus years, high school, college, even professional, with like Philadelphia Kicks and Philadelphia Soul, some local stuff. So, Angie?
Yeah. Then,
That's cool.
I'm up. I'm Angie Brambley-Moyer. I am the associate head strength and conditioning coach at Princeton University. That's a new title for me. I was an assistant there for 13 years, and then as of January 2017, I became the associate head, which I'm essentially the director of strength and conditioning.
Oh, cool.
There's a guy above me, my boss. He's the director of performance, but he doesn't train any teams. So
okay. And how many teams are you directly responsible for?
I'm directly responsible for 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I know you guys are just finished hockey a little bit ago.
Yes, we did.
And you've had like a couple victories,
Yeah.
a couple W's.
Angie's got a bunch of rings. Why don't you tell me how many rings you have?
This year, we're having a great year. Like my team so far, I have 2 fall sports that are in season, 2 winter sports in season, 2 spring sports in season. So both my fall and both my winter sports won conference championships, essentially.
Sweet.
So lacrosse and softball still in season, but, hoping there, too. That would be great. End to the year.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're doing well. This year was a good year for my sport teams.
Cool.
Solid. And then Timmy, did you get Coach of the Year?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been at Jefferson now for 3 years. I got Coach of the Year in the conference the first year. I got Coach of the Year for the university, which is all their coaches. The Bucky Harris Coaches Award the second year, and then last year I was fortunate enough to get All Conference again award.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Nice. So as the listeners at home now can see, like you guys are putting up a fair amount of W's on your end of the table
We try.
in this
I
discussion.
love
so-
winning.
Yeah.
and then I met Tim many moons ago, probably in my early 20s.
Yeah, it's probably 15 plus years, I'm thinking, at this
Wow.
point.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 32, and I think I met you when I was 20.
Yeah,
I
you guys
think.
were. Yeah, you were young and dumb when
Wow.
we met. So
Yeah,
that was a,
yeah.
that was a
Wow.
It's
ways
all
ago.
good.
Long time.
Well, that's why I needed to come see you, because I was doing
Yeah, I think when we
stupid
first
stuff.
met, you guys would go from kickboxing potentially, and then come see me, and then you might go from me to wrestling at that point.
Well, we did. We had.
Possibly.
You met us at a intense training period in the world.
The average, I think, was 2 a days for at least 4 days a week, maybe
Yeah.
5.
And
at
this
that
was on
point.
top of contracting full time.
Yes.
So yeah, we had. It wasn't always
good
that
schedule,
intense,
man.
but
Yeah.
it was. Well, because you had like 30-minute, like these little power circuits. We'd come in and knock out, and then we'd go jet to the next thing. And I know
Yep.
Saturdays we would train fight training first, and then end with you.
Yes.
And we were so happy to drive to High Point after our, because that was like the last thing. We'd stop and train with you for like an hour, and then we'd like foam roll or whatever, and then it was cheat meal
Yeah, that
time.
was
So it was
weekend-
like,
weekend off.
oh man,
Rest of the
like,
weekend was off.
yeah. When like that noon workout was done, it was just like you put some ice on the black eyes, and then my brother and I would spend like 3 hours driving around picking up food.
Yeah.
But
The good old days.
oh man, it's good. It's good. We're working on. Serena and I have talked about putting together like a cookbook for this show.
The Painter and the Pixie cookbook.
And obviously Serena's coming from like a nutritional therapy background, so it's got to be like,
Somewhat healthy.
someone else's food. But then what I'm gonna do is it's gonna be like scratch made cheat meals, which are
Perfect.
like my specialty.
Awesome.
Still
So-
like mostly made from whole foods. So
Yeah.
like that's still a
Yeah,
process.
it's just
I
like
mean,
high in calories
Yeah.
and fat. It's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we play around with some, like, we like pizza and cheat meal stuff too, and we play around with the occasional, different crust, some almond stuff. I've done cauliflower that she's approved of a couple times. So I haven't got it dialed in yet, but it's
Yeah.
getting better.
Yeah.
There's going to be a point in time where you want your cheat meals to be healthy so you don't feel as
Yeah.
terrible after eating them.
Very true.
And like
Yeah.
that's kind of the area that I'm in right now. Like that, I mean, I want to splurge, but like I feel so good when I don't. So now I'm like moving towards like gotta find something a bit healthier, you know, better quality products. I mean, maybe it just like mentally makes me feel better, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, very true.
I like getting the flavor that I want. So a lot of times, like I've been really systematizing my diet during the week. So then, like by like Friday, Saturday, I'm ready for like something rich that's
Yeah.
not a smoothie or
Right.
another bowl of chili or whatever it is.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. The cheat meal stuff, when you get into the healthier versions, I usually wind up having to do it myself as well because
Yeah.
it doesn't taste the way you want it to
Well,
taste.
like
Yeah.
I did a reconstructed onion tower last weekend.
I saw that.
That was so
Dude,
good.
dude.
That was amazing.
How long did that take?
Not that long.
Like 20 minutes.
Oh wow.
yeah, dude. It was very.
Wow,
So
I'll buy that cookbook.
Was that
I
the
will
beef
buy
tallow?
Yeah.
30 minutes
Yeah,
or
beef
less
tallow.
cheat meals.
Yeah,
30
it
minutes
was
or
great.
less. Like it's too long. You're just like, ah.
Well,
Yeah.
it
You
depends.
might as well buy it.
Depends on how many onion rings you want to make.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you make like one onion into onion rings, okay, that's like 20 minutes. But then every onion beyond that, you have to wait for fry time. So
Right.
it takes a
Gotcha.
little longer.
Do you use like an actual oil fryer or an air fryer?
So I have like a big fryer, but it takes so much oil.
Yeah.
And what I use now instead of any cooking oil is I rendered beef suet into beef tallow to make those beef tallow French fries, which I made for my sister-in-law's birthday party. It was one of her requests, and then I had the tallow already like prepped and ready to go,
Yep.
and it's just in a Dutch oven, which is
Oh,
like
Cast
yeah.
iron Dutch
a
oven.
really nice
Yeah, we
way
have
to
one of
fry.
those.
It's what I would recommend versus getting because beef tallow, when it sits at room temperature, actually hardens, kind of like butter.
Yeah.
So like when you put it in an industrial fryer, it doesn't stay liquid, which it'll like jam up the machine. If that coil gets cold,
Oh,
it'll
right,
reharden,
right,
and then it's
right,
a huge
right.
pain in the butt.
Right.
So
Then you have to heat it for a while.
Correct.
Yeah, gotcha.
yeah.
And the cast iron's nice too because it keeps the oil hot because
Yeah.
of the iron itself.
Yeah, it probably doesn't need a
So-
lot of temperature to warm up and
Yeah.
warm up.
Yeah. So anyway, and then I did the ranch sauce and the campfire sauce from Red Robin. Oh
Dude,
man.
like what happened? Like we were coming coming over. Like,
we have food.
I mean, like, I would love to have seen like an onion tower sitting in the
Yeah,
middle.
dude, see, we should have done that.
Yeah.
Hey, we did make food.
Yeah, chili. I made chili.
Yeah, it's delicious. So yeah, we got you guys hooked up for after the show if you want to eat. But I find that if you eat before the show, I used to do that on some of my
True.
old shows,
Tired.
and everyone was just like leaning over the mics. You just see them kind of space out, like, "Hey," they're like, "What? What's?" I'm like, "We're
Especially
recording
some of
still."
Jeremy's food, you know.
Yeah.
So if he's doing like onion towers and stuff, you're like gonna not do well.
It's kind of like getting hit with a bear tranquilizer sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the beef tallow
was
stuff
great.
is pretty solid. So
Yeah, those were probably some of the best onion rings. We've tried onion rings in the past, and they've not been as good, but this was really good.
yeah. So anyway, that's
Looking
kind of,
forward to it. Can I make a birthday request?
When's
Yeah.
your birthday?
In
October.
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 Ooh, okay, cool.
we can make that happen.
Yeah.
You got time.
Yeah, so usually I say like, you kind of want to keep it from like appetizer, main dish,
Yeah.
and then like dessert. But like your main dish can be like
And
a
some
couple
good sides
things.
and
Yes,
sauces.
you gotta have good sides and all that. So we
Nice.
did bacon cheddar burgers on croissants. So I think we talked about it last week
We
on
did.
the show. But
We did.
anyway, so that's coming later. You guys are like, I don't want to hear about food I can't have right now. So one of the reasons Serena and I were talking, like, we have these two very proficient strength coaches in our midst, and so like, what is the best kind of information we can pull out from y'all that would be the most helpful? So some of this might be a stretch because I know you guys are used to dealing with more experienced athletes, but one of the situations I have like two particularly because I've seen these example happen 2 times in a row. And then I'll come back to that one. But just to on-ramp somebody, like Tim, you always say, like, sometimes you need to get in shape to get in shape.
Yes.
Serena, do you have like a spot you'd like to start as far as like where your clients are coming from when they're inquiring about fitness?
Yeah, well, a lot of my clients don't know anything at all about fitness or health, and that's why they're coming to see me. Or they know some, or they know a lot about nutrition, but they don't know much about lifestyle things like exercise and these types of things. So I am not a certified strength coach. I know nothing. I know like the bare minimum just from experience. And so they ask me questions like, what can I do? What can I do at home? And I say, well, walk, stand up, move around, even little stretches. I show them little tiny bits of things they can do, but I don't know what to do or where to send them. So
Well, I actually started when I was in my undergrad stuff doing personal training, and particularly in cardiac rehab is really where I started. So that was like probably the most challenging, and it was funny in retrospect looking back on it because you were putting the most challenging clients with the most novice person.
yeah, that's
So it's
Ooh,
like
good point.
backwards the way that you would really want it in this day and age. Like, in hindsight, I would have rather them put somebody, that
more
had a
experienced maybe.
master's degree or at least an undergrad degree. I was still in my undergrad getting a personal training certification, which is like a 6-week course. And I'm like, oh, we have this doctor sending cardiac rehab. So I had to do a lot of studying, and luckily at the time I was taking a lot of exercise phys stuff. So
If they were in cardiac rehab, are they rehabbing from
a possible heart attack.
like a heart attack or like heart
so
surgery?
you're talking about having to deal with medications and
and not killing them in their rehab.
Exactly, and respiration, have to understand heart rate. So so from that side of things, I think that the biggest misconception that's out there is people talk about doing cardio all the time. And when they talk about doing cardio, if you're really talking about the cardiac like zone, there's 2 zones. There's one that's actually going to like basically make your heart bigger like a muscle.
Okay.
And then there's one that is going to get more sustainable blood flow, like a consistent kind of blood flow. So the blood flow end of it is really, from our experience, is what we would call almost like a resting active heart rate. Like when you try and get, like when we talk about, like when you do your conditioning, getting your heart rate back down to like 120 beats per minute kind of zone. Well, that's actually the cardiac zone that I'm talking about for long sustained.
Okay.
So you would get that heart rate up around that zone and try and keep it there. So the best example would probably be what we talked about before when we were trying to get you back in shape, was adding some weight to a backpack and going for a walk.
Oh, right, okay.
So it had just needed to be something that's a little bit strenuous, enough to get your heart rate up a little bit, but you don't want to go too far out of that zone because then you get into other energy systems, so to speak. So the other side of it is what people always talk about, like cardio and doing like running. That is also not in the cardio zone as far as I'm
so
concerned.
funny.
Yeah, because if you're going to train your heart like a muscle, you have to take it to almost failure, right? Like
Yeah.
muscle failure. The only way to do that would be max effort sprints, like short, high intensity sprints. Because if you think about like a 100-yard dash is about 10 seconds, and that's about as fast as you can possibly go with your energy system before you kind of burn out.
Interesting.
Right,
I did
so
not
that-
know that. I know nothing.
But then if you have like a longer, because it seems to me like, at least my experience with like jiu-jitsu and stuff, there's a lot of dudes get kind of jiu-jitsu guys particularly get a rep as kind of like lazy, as far as like if we're going to stereotype, like Muay Thai guys are more like cardio.
Yeah.
Like they're generally leaner athletes
yeah.
if that's all they do, and grapplers are known for being a little bit lazier for a wide variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But it seems like if you kind of pair both those systems up, like I noticed the more I did long distance running, like when I had to do like a medium or low effort for like an hour, it really helped my, like a layer of my cardio. I couldn't like explode, but I could stay at like a steady level longer when I was grappling.
Right. What people don't understand is that it's all about your engine. So like if you can lift a lot of weight, but like you don't have the cardiac capacity to recover, you're not going to be able to lift as much weight in the long run. So one of those things, like the running joke in our kind of industry, is like the really strong people get winded walking up a flight of stairs.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so the world's strongest man kind of, well, that's not a great example because they're doing some cardio, but like the people that can lift 1,000 pounds, they get winded walking up a flight of stairs because they don't do cardio.
Wow.
But when you talk about like the high end, like the West Side guys or whatever, they always do cardio, and the cardio they're doing is kind of what I described as those kind of long walks with some weight. You know, like their big guys will put 40 pounds in a backpack and go for a 3-mile walk. And they're supposed to do it in a brisk amount of time or pay attention to heart rate and kind of keep it in that one heart rate zone. But in order for them, when they reach that kind of level, that's when they're also going to bust through and hit those, you know, their PRs or hit those max levels.
Gotcha.
So even the strongest people can improve from good cardiovascular training.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So just to kind of connect to what we were asking about, like getting in shape to get in shape, one of the things that you recommend is to go do something like this to start conditioning and building up cardio capacity.
Yeah, so like if you really wanted to kind of pull it back as far as you can, the YMCA used to do like a stepper test.
Oh, okay.
And a stepper test is like 3 minutes, and you had to be able to complete a certain number of repetitions. If you would pass that, then you were fit enough to take like their low entry level classes.
Oh, okay.
So that was really for like the moms that hadn't been doing anything for a long time. So if you kind of Google it or look at some of those old fitness tests, like YMCA fitness test, the stepper is a good one just to kind of give you a gauge. So yeah, I mean, like I would say to Jeremy before, like some people need to get in shape to get in shape.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of a relative thing, but you should be able to like do a 30-minute walk, you know, on an incline. And I would say like the incline, split it. If it goes to 10%, at least 5% at like 5 miles an hour or something where it's kind of a brisk walk. And if you can't do that for, you know, 3 miles, which should take you about 27 to 30 minutes, and you're probably not ready for weight training.
Right. Okay.
You know, so.
Yeah, it's good to know. I was curious because I have a lot of clients who come to see me who have some excess weight they're trying to shed off, and they say to me, "I went to this trainer and they just put me into the floor and I never went back." Like I have people who it's so common, and it's ridiculous to me because you look and you say, "Yeah, someone's coming to you from totally baseline 0 or sub-zero, and you have no place to get started from, and then they put you through like an hour workout of total torture." That's not helpful, right?
Well, if I can add just a little nugget of advice they need to look at someone's background because, like I said, it's not a knock on personal training, but it's a 6-week course that you can do online, and it gives you the bare minimum. I mean, Angie can probably speak a little bit more to this because she deals with actual interns on a regular basis, and some of them come from a variety of different backgrounds, but in the end, she has to teach them the base knowledge of kind of where her athletes start. So you want to talk a little bit about your interns and the different backgrounds they come from?
To go like what you were saying about, like Tim was saying about finding a trainer, definitely look into their backgrounds. I mean, there's a difference between having the actual education behind what you're doing and taking a personal training course. So not to say that like a personal training course wouldn't help you, but you need to do something beyond that. Like, and these certifications don't do that. There's like, once you got our certification, you're good to go. You can put your our letters behind your name. And really what they should be doing is forcing people to do actual internship type of things, put some volunteer hours into learning behind a professional, like a master level, you know, strength coach or, you know, exercise physiologist or whatever they want to get into. I really think that that's important, and it's not, but I mean, these industries are like, these certification companies want to make money, and it becomes
it's a good deal, man.
Yeah.
Certifications.
Oh yeah. So
they're big dollars. I mean, when I started, you could probably get a nationally recognized certification for probably around $300. You're probably talking more along the lines of 1,000 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
easy.
there's what you're saying is they don't require any sort of practical experience
Correct.
to go with that. You can have all the knowledge you want, but if you don't know how to actually take someone through, that's really not helpful, and it can be harmful for some people. That's what it was for some of my clients. Completely wrecked their metabolism for a long time because they were then afraid to do even basic things. You know, walking around the block was like, I feel 2 weeks later, I'm in so much pain from this crazy intense workout.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we got to start taking you on slowly. I say the on-ramp needs to match the person.
Yeah.
There's
agree.
needs to be some science involved, and I think that's why, you know, Jeremy kind of always gravitated towards me. I mean, he's known or been around a lot of strength coaches or personal trainers over the years. I mean, it's really easy to run somebody into the ground.
That's not hard.
Yeah, I mean, I used to kid around with Jeremy back when the fighters would come in, because, you know, some of these fighters would come in and be like, oh, like, this guy's really tough, like, you know, beat him up. And I'm like, we would do things in my master's degree to basically make people throw up, like on purpose, like lactic acid threshold or lactate threshold, which is like going over your lactic acid. I'm like, at this point, I could probably make somebody throw in about 2 minutes.
Wow.
So it really wasn't that hard. Yeah, I mean, honestly, from that perspective, and I do believe that we went through a couple of those circuits a few times just because either you guys challenged me or wanted to see if we could do it. And
they didn't believe him.
Well, you did a quote unquote fitness assessment on me, and I went first, and then for Christmas I bought my brother a pack of sessions with you, and then I knew you were going to fitness test him, and so I was just like, I didn't tell him like that was what's gonna happen, and I dry heaved in the bathroom when you did it to me. So I was like, I'm like, Josh is more prone to throwing up. He's totally gonna chuck. And then he did, and then just later he's just like just run.
Well,
like,
that tested twofold though for me as a strength coach. Number one, it evaluates your fitness level, but number two, and this kind of goes maybe more hand in hand with what we may talk about in our generational talk, perhaps coming up, is that you guys were a little bit different animal, because most people will not push to the point of getting sick.
Yeah.
So that was my evaluation as far as me potentially taking you on as a client as well, because like, are you going to do what I asked you to do, or are you going to just say, oh, this is too hard, and stop?
Yeah.
But
That's a good point.
Yeah, so that's
kind of a vetting process.
Angie, you have that problem, right? Quitting before you pass that threshold.
no, Angie blacks out and doesn't know.
I don't have that shut off. I do now. I learned my lesson from that.
Yeah.
Ever since that moment, I have never gone back to that point. I never will go back to it. I learned my lesson.
Wait, you actually passed out?
No,
did.
she's alluding to Angie used to do CrossFit when it first came out.
Okay.
So before it became what it is now, her and some friends found a very good CrossFit gym, and it was fun for them because they were former rugby players, so they were athletes that were looking for something else to do, and some of those workouts, as you know, are just like go. And they were doing a regional competition where she had a sandbag and she had to run with it. And then at one point she veered off the course and got lost and woke up almost in an ambulance or with some paramedics saying, "Are you okay?" So yeah, my wife does not have the shut off.
So wait, were you just running like on a track with it or out?
No, it was
hills
it was like a trail run, and
okay.
like you ran kind of like maybe a quarter mile. Then the girls had to put a 50-pound sandbag on their backs, and they had to run. I mean, it was almost like the kind of hill that you had to like use your hands to climb up. I think the guys had the 75 or 100, and I was the only girl in our group that did all three workouts earlier. So there was like three of us, so there was one person that had to go through all three of the workouts. The other two flip-flopped.
Okay.
So this was the third workout of the day, and I wasn't you know, like I knew I wasn't feeling great prior, but yeah.
That was the only signal
Yeah.
that you heard from your brain at the
So
news.
I was just like, keep going. Like,
Just
just finish. Just finish. I mean, come on.
there.
But some athletes, and she will agree because she actually deals with a lot more athletes in this day and age than I do, but there's rare athletes that don't have the shutoff. Most athletes have a shutoff valve that comes in really early instead of the really late shutoff.
You just
Yeah.
gotta ignore, you just
You
gotta
know
ignore
the
this shit.
shutoff
That's-
valve that nobody has, like when they're drinking, like they just drink, they can fall asleep with like a beer in their hand. I have the shutoff valve for that, but I don't have it for exercise.
Right.
So
right.
I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
have to keep reminding myself what that moment was like, and now I think I'm good. Like I actually know how to tell people you've done too much, and in fact, I know how to tell myself like I like to compete. Like I still compete with myself, like you know, getting stronger. I'm like, I mean, if you're not getting stronger, you're getting weaker. I mean, that's how I feel. I mean, as an athlete and as like a non-competitive athlete, I just feel that way. Like as I'm aging, like I feel like I just want to keep getting stronger, and so it's a constant like competition with myself.
Yeah.
But I definitely am much smarter now, and I
Yeah, it's
kind of
been-
go based on like how I feel, and I really think hard about the things that I'm doing, so I want to be able to sustain it.
It's
Yeah.
also been years of me lecturing her, telling her all the
True.
things she's doing.
True,
I
but
think it's an
he'll
interesting-
lecture me and I still won't listen. So come on.
Just like blah blah.
You've got to
signs.
Yeah,
learn
exactly.
for yourself.
Exactly.
You got to see it with your hands. You
Yeah.
know, you got to do it your
Yeah.
own self.
But I think to kind of tie this in, I think that most people think of getting in shape the wrong way. Really what getting in shape is, to me, on the other side of things with 20 plus years of strength and conditioning experience, is manual labor. People just don't
Yep.
do enough manual labor in this day and age. So,
That's true.
you know, I grew up in a generation where we played 4 sports a year. You just went from one sport to another sport, and you worked on top of it. My whole family's in construction, so in the summers I was doing roofing. You know, we were doing just construction stuff. We were constantly busy. My stepdad was a mason, so we were doing masonry at some point. You know, mowing your own grass, pushing the mowers, and all that kind of stuff. Like those days are gone for
Yeah.
most of the athletes I deal with. I mean, most of the athletes I deal with are lucky if they do 2 days of gym class. And the
Wow.
rest of the week, the only other exercise they're getting is their club sport, which is possibly 2 days a week. So,
Right,
Yeah, that's a
right.
really good point. That's
so you're talking
true.
about most of the athletes that I deal with, I would still say, if you're talking about like being in shape, are still a novice or not necessarily in shape.
And plus, they have all the posture hangups
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
Yeah.
like sitting in school all day.
Even
and-
more, I mean, the phone, looking down at your phone with the upper extremity stuff is probably worse than the sitting, honestly.
Sitting on the phone, then also if you're working on a computer as well,
Yeah.
it's still like a hunched, and then with a mouse, it's like a.
Yep.
Yeah, I've had to do more computer work recently, and I'm just like, dude, this is rough.
Yeah,
Like,
and then
I'd rather,
you add in the sleep problems they have from all that stuff, and,
Yeah.
and your nutritional things
Yeah.
that you're talking about, and then you're talking about a whole, you know, host of problems for
Yep.
those athletes. But I think the easiest thing for anybody to do would be to do more manual labor type things. So my point would be, like, for your clients, I mean, just as it's getting nice outside, go outside and work in your gardens, and, you know, have to change levels, stand up, down. I mean, pushing a wheelbarrow is
Yeah.
unbelievable because you have to balance it and use your core to do it, and it's still some strength work, and, you know, but
Yeah.
it's really just if they can dedicate a half an hour every day to doing something, even if it's like go outside and rake leaves, or
Yeah.
you know, a broom, and all these things have core and stuff. Like manual labor just does so many good things for you. And that's one of those things where Jeremy will tell you, I still do some of his programming and stuff, and then as much as he does manual labor, him and Josh, for a living, I still program it into the end of their
Yeah.
workout and what we call like posture stuff. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
farmer's walks, they're still manual labor, really. It's just getting more work done.
And do you
Yeah.
have any suggestions? Because I was thinking about, like, we have a lot of times Serina's dealing with folks that are coming from like an office environment where, like, my brother and I are putting together a course for teaching contractors how to run the back end of their business. And then one of the things that I think we're going to have is like a supplemental video is going to be something like related to fitness for contractors.
Okay, yeah.
Because
That's cool.
I'm around a lot of contractors, obviously it's my profession, but I see like plumbers and electricians and
Yeah.
carpenters, and like guys have varying degrees of fitness, but I haven't seen anything where it's like, here's how to maintain mobility for contracting
That's
like that level of fitness? Because some guys like stonemasons, if you grapple, like I've actually done jiu-jitsu against a guy who was a stonemason, strongest hands I've ever. It was freakish. Like,
oh, I know.
that.
My stepdad grabbed my brother and I when we were 12 one time and picked us both up and put us against the wall.
Whoa.
We deserved it in hindsight.
Yeah.
But it was very impressive.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
different, man. But
Yeah.
Strength.
but like guys, because guys get hurt on the job too. But it's
Yeah.
because a lot of times their diet's terrible. They're taking an hour lunch break to go get Wawa sandwiches and chips and soda and all this stuff, and then
5-hour
they come
energy
back
drinks.
and they're slamming
Hydration's a problem.
Yeah.
coffee, sugar, cigarettes, whatever. And
Yeah.
then it's also they're the guys moving these big heavy things. It's also objects that are like far away from your body,
Well,
and
if
they're
you
not
think
they're
about
not
it,
balanced.
A lot of
So-
them are in boots as well.
right?
So the the foot support and ankle support and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff just from the ground up. I mean, boots are borderline terrible for you if you don't have the right footwear inside them.
Yeah.
Kinda.
And there's some better boots that have come along. Shoot, I forget. My one buddy wears them, but also Viva Barefoot.
Yeah, there's some better ones now. But
My brother and I go barefoot a lot
Yeah,
on the
the-
job because
yeah,
we're
the-
Or in
inside.
sock feet.
Yeah.
We're in our sock feet most of the time.
yeah, the
nice.
two-stage boots with the elevated heel and stuff. I mean, that's like walking in a high-heel shoe. I mean,
Yeah.
that's terrible for
And
your.
it's heavy.
Yeah.
And it's heavy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, but like,
So
'cause
can we go back to the manual labor thing?
Sure,
real quick?
sure.
I think that's super important. I think that those were some really great points. That just doing more things physically, that still counts. I was just talking to a client the other day who is a mom, and she's like, I just can't find any time to exercise. I don't know how I can possibly fit it in. My life is really busy now with kids, and I was trying to encourage her and say, honey, when you pick up your kid and go like this and put her on the slide, like
Yeah.
she's 35 pounds, that counts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That
Yeah.
stuff really still counts as exercise.
Yeah,
You're
and
moving
even-
your body and building muscle and
Yeah.
stamina and strength, all these things,
Well,
even if it
even-
doesn't look like you're working out.
Right, raking and brooming. I mean, back when I was part owner of a gym, one of the things we used to actually have push brooms, and I remember we used to make the
Yeah,
kids
man.
do push brooms and stuff. And if you've never done a push broom on like a heavy carpet, like a turf type thing, like it is a core workout. And I remember
Yeah.
parents would come up and be like, "Why are you having our kids do that? Like you're just having them like brush off the turf."
You're
and
like,
clean."
"Try it."
I'm like,
Yeah.
pick it up. And let's see if you can make it down the turf with it.
Yeah.
And then they would never ask me the same question again. But I mean, any of that stuff, I mean, it's really just the time. So if you're saying, okay, I have 30 minutes, something that they can include in their daily kind of thing is carrying a water bottle. So like the old kind of bodybuilder, the 1 gallon water bottle, they're heavy. They're heavier than you think they are if you're not
Yeah.
used to dealing with it. So carrying that around, setting it different places as you're kind of going about your day, whether it's to the bathroom, carrying it in there, taking it back out. It's one of the things I usually recommend. Usually the guys don't have a problem doing that, but for the females, I would say if they work in an office, like every time they stand up and sit back down twice. You just
Yeah.
doubled your amount of work you did that day compared to the next one. Or as they get better at that stuff, I would say get up. They can do a certain stretch or something, like once each side or 2 each side, and then go do what they were going to do. And then when they come back, do the same stretch again
Yeah.
before, sitting down or
Yeah.
something. Or
And I like the
so-
idea of starting with a walk and then doing like working up to a weighted walk.
Yeah, that's a
and
great point.
if anyone
too.
wants to get a little like crazy with that, I got a Rogue. I forget the
Rack.
name of it. It's a Rogue rack trainer.
Yeah.
And it's basically it's a military backpack frame with a post mounted to the cross piece in the back, and you can rack weights on it.
yeah, you can put Olympic size
Yep.
plates
Yeah.
will fit on it.
And I actually bought some old plates off you guys. But I've done that, and that's no joke. Like
Yeah.
I stopped because it started. I was like crushing this monster hill back here, and I think I probably ended up putting too much weight on. But,
Yeah, a little bit.
course
A
you
little
did.
too hard, too
Of course
fast.
you did.
Jeremy, never.
Yeah, exactly.
But hey, I stopped. I'm getting better at noticing
Okay,
when
good
to stop.
job.
Yeah.
I'll recognize that.
So so instead of adding weight to it, what I would have told you to do is try and complete the run faster.
Okay.
So there gets to be a tipping point, and where the weight it changes your posture, and it changes even your gait as far as how you're walking at different stuff, and then
Yeah.
you're getting away from the actual point.
Yeah, I mean, I was just messing around with. I think I got up to maybe 35 pounds of racked weight, and then whatever the backpack weighs,
11
which might be
pounds.
another 11 pounds.
Yeah.
So that's why when you said you did a 50-pound sandbag, that's no joke, because like a 45-pound plate on your back is like it's significant. It alters your stride, how you're bracing.
Yep,
It's no
absolutely.
joke.
Yeah, like you said, you actually have to brace because of having the. So And just so your listeners, if we're tying in the, like, Jeremy's kind of the fitness guys, if they think we're getting away from them, Louis Simmons of Westside talks about, like, he trains a lot of real high-end linemen for the NFL. So they always want to be really strong. But his guys consistently beat everybody else in the conditioning runs, and they don't run. They do weighted backpack walks. But even a 300-pound lineman, I don't think he ever lets them get over like 40 pounds.
Interesting.
But they have to complete, they usually use a track at first, so it's flat.
Okay.
And they have to complete 3 miles, and they time them, and then their goal is to complete that 3 miles faster. And when they can do it in under a certain amount of time, then they have a place, I guess, nearby where they start adding hills in.
Interesting.
Basically.
Okay.
So the progression would be from flat, no weight, flat, added weight, and then you would drop it back down probably to no weight and start doing some different hill walks kind of thing before adding weight to those hill walks.
I think that's great. You said something earlier, Tim. You said working out doesn't look like it doesn't need to look like what people think it looks like or whatever. And that's exactly it. You think what you said, put a lot more weight on there. That's going to be the better option. No, do it faster or go flat and then move to some elevation change.
Yeah, that's why I think my most respect in strength and conditioning really falls with those, like, world's strongest man, they're strongman guys. Like, they're actually, like, it's hard to be really strong and be in really good shape. Yeah. Like, coming from someone who's been around the world to try and get people in both of them, like, it's hard to be really strong and be in really good shape. And that's probably what Angie's goal has been since I met her. Like, she's really good at the Olympic lifts, but her goal is still always, like, to be as strong as she can, but she also wants to be the most fit. Like, she doesn't want to have one thing and not the other. So that's always the world she dances in, which is why I think she kind of beats herself up so much on certain things. So one of the things that, like, I'm always trying to do is pull her back on the conditioning side of things sometimes, because she tends to go for that, like, run into the same mindset of, like, going to failure in lifting. And what I don't think a lot of the old meathead kind of people to understand is you're doing exactly the same thing. If you fail in lifting and you fail in the, like, sprinting, running, they're the same. So like, you don't want to be training that energy system all the time, or you're going to get burnout. Like, that's why your patients come see you, because they're probably living in a certain, like, whatever it is, that certain zone the whole time. So they need to learn to vary it. So if they can, start with the walking stuff, and eventually once they feel good about the walking stuff, that's when they should get into weight training. People get into weight training way too soon. Like, they don't have the engine to do weight training, meaning you can lift the weights, but when you're sore for 5 days is because you don't have the muscle mass or the engine, the cardio engine, or the metabolic engine to process that. So you're sore for 5 to 7 days.
Yeah, which it shouldn't be if you were in shape to be able to do weightlifting in the first place.
Right. If you're sore for more than 2 to 3 days, like, you're under in something. So, I mean, the high end people, like, occasionally might want to get sore for 4 or 5 days, but that's for a growth reason.
Yeah, totally different response.
Exactly.
Or you're coming off a competition or something where you really pushed it.
Yeah. So. Like, your people should feel like if they get up and down out of a chair, like, feel a little tightness, but if they feel more than that, then they're doing way too much too soon. And that's,
and I love that perspective. Thank you for saying that, because so many of my clients come to me and they want to feel something, right? I can't tell you how many people come and they're like, all right, I'm ready to do a juice cleanse. I know you're going to put me on something like that. And I say, no, I'm not. I'm just going to say, like, maybe add a tiny little bit more water to your day. We want to take it slow and steady, because if you shock your system and you have this horrible detox response or you feel miserable for days, that's, like, unnecessary, totally unnecessary, and sometimes harmful.
Yeah. From a scientific point, if you feel that bad for days, you did muscle damage. You tore muscles, you broke down things, you don't have the other, metabolic things in your body to recover. You're pulling electrolytes that maybe you don't even have because you don't have enough water to start with, or if you have a poor diet, on top of all that stuff, you're asking your body to recover from something you're not used to. So, I mean, the baby step stuff is really the way to go. I mean, even for the athletes I deal with, like at the college level, like, we only do very minimal weight training things. She's fortunate enough because she is a strength coach where she has them on a schedule, but for me as a college Division II coach, like, we don't have weight room time scheduled. It's part of my practice.
Interesting. Okay.
What I would say to your clients is that obviously, like, consistency is the key. Like, it's the lifestyle management that you really want. I mean, I'm assuming their goals aren't, like, there's no time cutoff for a goal. So, like, you have all the time. So take that time and do the things that like Tim was mentioning and build it up. And there's going to be times where you take steps backwards, and that's okay too. I mean, people think like, oh, like I got to walking 3 miles and you're like, oh, this week I can't do it. And they start becoming stressed out. Like, just do what you can. Like,
Right.
just
Yeah, I love
do
that.
what you can, because it's the all or nothing principle, like just doesn't ever work for anybody's goals. Like whether it be like a fast fix or a slow fix, it just never works.
Yeah.
So like today I went to the gym and I'm like, I've been used to running on the treadmill for 4 miles, and I'm like, you know what? I just don't really feel like doing that today. I'm like, I'm going to go for about 2 or whatever I feel. And then I'm like, shut it down, walk. And that's what I did,
Yeah.
you know? So it wasn't what I did 3 weeks ago, but I just kind of, I got there. I did it.
Yeah.
You know, it was just, I did like maybe half of what I thought I would do, but that's okay. Like I feel fine and I feel better for it. Because if I'm not really feeling up to it, there's a reason for that.
Right.
You know, it could be the weather. It could be anything, you know.
all kinds of
Yeah,
things.
it's a weird.
I think that's a really good point too.
yeah.
Thanks, Angie.
I find being in that zone of like, you know, you can push past it, and knowing you have that manual override, and it's like that thin line between being like, am I being kind to my body or am I bitching out? And it's like, that's where I'm like, I want to be sustainable. And I think that's kind of what we're circling is you, if like Angie said, if you don't have a definitive, like I need to be this weight by this time to cut weight for this thing, you want to have a sustainable on ramp so that, you know, things get easier as you go. And then you're, you know, Gary Vee says you want your output to match your ambition. And I think some people look at the world of fitness and it's like so overwhelming. There's these CrossFit people that are freaks and they're just like, you know, snatching and doing all this stuff. And it's like, that's not what you need to do.
Well,
like
it's also people don't understand it's their full-time job.
Right.
So those people that
And
are
that's
at
not where
that
they
level.
started.
No, and
No.
those are all former athletes, usually Division I former athletes. Like, we'll have a quick joke on CrossFit just because I feel like it needs one. I think their tagline is like building the like fittest people on earth.
Fittest on earth.
Fittest on earth.
Yeah.
I would dare to say that they haven't built any fittest on earth. They've taken the best athletes and they may have made them more fit, but they haven't built anybody from scratch to make them the fittest on earth. That's, you know, if we're going to talk, you know, I'm a big kind of science nerd, so I'm all about numbers and things. So if we're going to throw something out to your clients that we're going to talk about, so I would say that the first thing they need to do is, like Angie said, consistency is the key. So give yourself a time. If you're going to say, okay, it's going to be twice a week, 20 minutes, whatever it is, if it's a bike, if it's the treadmill, whatever, don't push it on your first one. Just get on it and try and go for 20 minutes.
Yep.
And look at how far you went and all that kind of stuff. And the next time you do it, all you're trying to do is beat it. It doesn't have to be beat it by a ton. Just you're
Even
trying
by
to do
like 1 second.
Yeah.
One little bit further, a little bit faster.
Or if it's your first week, just do it again. If you did it, you know, whatever, you walked 2 miles the first time, walk 2 miles again. And then that's it for, you know, the next time, if you're still doing the same workout, don't try and go for more distance necessary. Just see if you can get it done a little bit sooner, you know, which is kind of the stuff even for you, Jeremy, with you and Josh, that, like, I will push you guys at times to be like, okay, well, here's a circuit, get it done as fast as you can.
Yeah.
I'm going
Because-
to interrupt there, and I would say that if Tim said do 2 miles in a week, 2 times a week. If you can do 2 miles one time, try to do 2 miles the other time. But the second time, if you only feel up to doing 1, do 1.
Yeah.
It's better than
to
saying
stay consistent.
exactly. It's better than being like, oh, I don't feel up to my 2 miles.
So
then
I'll do
do 1.
nothing.
Do something.
Yeah, I love that because then it's less of the all or nothing mentality.
Right.
It's great to have that plan and set that aside for yourself, but kind of like what you said, knowing the line between bitching out and I'm going to be kind to my body, and
Right.
because you want to build that habit over time.
Exactly.
You don't
Make
want to
it a
just
habit.
make it a habit. So if you are now you're working out twice a week consistently, rather than saying, well, once a week I feel like I can run my 2 miles, and the second time, I'm not up to 2 miles, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
You're continuing to build that consistent
But I would try
pattern.
and keep the time, if you can, the same. So if you can only do a mile, go stretch, go do something else, like,
right.
you know, find something else, but keep the same amount of time consistent if you
Right,
can,
okay.
so that you're used to having that amount of time, because eventually you're going to want to do more.
Right.
You know what I mean, kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, the first thing is get consistent. And then, you know, when I would first start, even anybody, like the good CrossFits and stuff and the good gyms have on-ramps.
Yeah.
They really do now. So when I would first start training anybody, even at the higher levels, I would put them through my warm-up which is like 15 minutes. The old school warm-ups we did were pretty long.
It's no joke. Yeah.
So I would put them through that warm-up 3 times. If they could, and then once they could go through the warm-up 3 times, and then they would come back next time and we would talk about, were you sore? No, I wasn't really sore. Okay, so then the next time we might only do the warm-up twice and then do some strength training in there afterwards. Talk to them again, get feedback if they're sore or not sore. If they're not sore, we get to the point where they're only warming up once, and then we're spending more time doing the main. And then as like for someone like Jeremy, that 15-minute warm-up we used to do probably takes him 5 minutes now.
Because he's built that up.
Yeah, and the capacity, and he knows how to do it. He knows his body, so they can kind of rip through the warm-up, and then that warm-up is now 5 minutes. Then he has, if it's still an hour, is usually our workouts we do, right?
Yep.
So now the meat and potatoes is probably 45 minutes of work with, a little bit of posture or some cool down stuff on the end.
Yeah, well, I started doing, because similar thing with my thoughts with you, Angie, as far as like you're trying to like ride that line between output and like having the endurance and then being strong. And I've been like, one of the things I wanted to ask you guys, is there like an optimum level, or is it, as you say, like if you're not getting stronger, you're getting weaker? Because sometimes I feel like there's diminishing returns for you kind of, I've noticed that people that get in shape up to a point, and they're like 90% there. It's that last 10% that's super hard to get to like that quote unquote like peak performance of being like super dialed in. So then I just wonder for, having your output kind of match your ambition. If I want to do jujitsu and kind of have really good cardio that way, like it seems to me like I've pushed too hard a couple times where I've been doing too much. Like I've recently had to like kind of pause yoga because I was trying to do like 2 or 3 90-minute hot yoga classes a week, but also doing 2 strength and conditioning and then 3 times doing jujitsu. And it was just like, I was just working out and driving somewhere to sweat like all the time. I'm like, I just don't have time to then do like all this stuff. And Serina and I are starting new things and whatever. You're like, geez, like I'm sweating somewhere way too much like during the week where I cut it back, and now I'm doing 3 days a week strength and conditioning and then 3 days a week jiu-jitsu. But I added I took some of the core things that I learned from yoga, as far as I like the idea of working into a full posture and getting deep in a posture. And that was something Josh and I have talked a lot about over the last couple of weeks, is that we're doing the workouts that you gave us. And my brother's like, dude, I don't do like when I do a front squat, he's like, I look at the guys around me and they're like racking serious weight and they're doing like half squats or quarter squats. Josh's like, I don't do it unless I can go like ass to grass, like all the way down. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah.
You guys had a good strength coach.
Yeah, I know, right? But I was like, yeah, no, you want to be able to get into that full squat. And that's where I took kind of what I learned from the really strict postures of Bikram and kind of applied it to like making sure I really look and see like, how is my back supported? Where am I in the range of motion of things? And like, if I notice my knees flaring out, like I try and get everything in line, and I'd rather do like no weight if I have something weird going on. So it seems like that helps. But then what I did is now every workout, I do the same posture work that you gave me. I do farmer's carries every time. I do overhead plate walks, and I do the bear hug walk mixed in with like banded. I do like the banded monster walk, banded side shuffle, and then one other banded thing.
Yeah, if I had nothing else to give anybody out there, those would be the posture circuits, because you can start as light as you want and you can go as heavy as you want. Like, I mean, you can turn those into real strength work if you need to. Like, I mean, if you wind up like in your strongman days, 100 pounds, 150 pounds in each hand doing your farmer's walks, you know what I mean? That's no joke.
Yeah.
You say that like I had a career in strongman. I lifted at a strong
for a minute.
For like half a second. And
and then hurt yourself.
And so stupid things exploded and I moved on.
Well, let's pull apart your training. So if you want real answers, let's pull it apart.
Well, wait. Can we clarify what your question was?
Well, he wants to be optimal is what I thought your question.
Well, I guess it's more of like me circling around the issue of like, what's the optimum amount of time, and do you need to constantly crush yourself to get like or should the goal just to be like maintain like range of motion, maintain flexibility, and all of the it seems to me like you could do less. That's how my body's been feeling recently. Like I can do less output if I'm making sure I'm getting like the full range of motion. It starts to feel better.
I'm going to take this first.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, because I said this to one of my basketball team this week. I said, I'm not chasing numbers, I'm chasing strength. So unless you're in a sport like powerlifting or weightlifting where the number is the sport, the number is the success, then I just look at it like I'm chasing strength. Like, number one, I want to be able to do what I want, like, that I'm set out to do. So for right now, for you, that's jiu-jitsu. I mean, yes, you want to be able to move and be active, but like that's the thing that you're doing yoga and strength and conditioning for, correct?
Yep.
So you're chasing strength, and one day it may be you got to go lighter in the front squat because you want the full range of motion, and maybe you're going heavier in like your upper back work that day because like you're trying to fix posture. So I just will go back to the fact that like chasing the strength thing is the mindset that you're looking for, and you have to listen to your body and program intelligently to get to that point. And that's kind of where I am with my strength and conditioning.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess Good call, Sweet. I didn't really have a question. I was just
You did, though. You asked a question right at the beginning, which is what I wanted to bring it back to.
I guess the point that I wanted to make is that there's always a push, particularly for dudes or anyone in strength and conditioning, is to always go heavier. Every gym environment I've been a part of, it's always the push is to do more weight. And then what I've seen from the yoga folks I've gotten to know, and then some other athletes, it's like the weight. You do need weight to like a certain amount, but then it seems like when you get into those kind of scary numbers of like north of 400-pound deadlift, that kind of stuff, you're getting into like a danger zone where you really need to be focused and on point. So that's just what I've noticed with my training recently.
Well, to kind of touch on a couple things, so I agree wholeheartedly with what Angie's saying, that it's about like you have different strength, different qualities of strength. Right. So what you have to understand is, let's say it's almost like driving a car, like there's multiple gears, right? You have the slow gear, which is built for getting you out of really strong positions. Do you know what I mean? You have the medium gear, which you want to be able to move a little bit more fluid or a little bit more quickly. And then you have the high gear, which is moving really fast. Yeah. The high gear usually can't be in very long, right? Right. The low gear you can't be in very long either. So meaning like when you approach your strength and conditioning stuff, like you have to approach it by trying to train all three. So like for you, the jiu-jitsu stuff, depending on what you're doing, is probably more of a long, slow burn, correct? Because you have somebody's weight on you, you're trying to toss that weight, but never super fast, right?
There is speed in the scramble.
Okay.
Usually with no-gi, it can be more like a wrestling match, which can be explosive depending if you're on your feet. But in general, jiu-jitsu, you want access to your flexibility and strength for the entire duration. But a lot of times,
not like quick, speedy.
And when we're training, like rolling, a lot of times you can roll for like an hour, which means that's probably like 10 matches.
Right.
So somewhere in there.
So to pull that apart and doing your yoga is the really slow endurance part, right? Like the long walks we were talking about and other stuff. Yeah. So you're doing strength work in there too, because we talked about the one thing that you may need in there is the super fast stuff. And the super fast stuff, when I say that, might be sprints, but like that whole workout might be 20 minutes. Right. So that might be what you're missing that can help you kind of get to the level you're talking about. Now, the other thing, if you're talking about, like, everybody keeps talking about strength and numbers, what you have to understand is your goal to lift a weight for 3 times? Or, like, so, like, is your goal to squat 800 pounds, or is your goal to be able to squat 10,000 pounds in a workout?
Right.
They're
like
different.
It would add up to 10,000 pounds.
Right. So my point is, like, when you talk to the guys that really know strength, like, you know, I'll keep coming back. I keep giving a plug kind of the West Side guys, but as far as numbers go, they're the strongest guys in the world. The one thing that they always make sure that they do is they have a number goal too. So like for, like, let's say hamstrings or leg curls, they have to be able to lift, I think it's 3 times as much weight as they can squat. So if they're an 800-pound squatter, whatever weight they do in the squat that day, they have to do 3 times as much hamstring work to balance it out. Interesting. So if you're going to squat, and let's say you squat 800 pounds, and I did, 4 or 5 reps getting up there, it might be close to, 8,000 pounds that I lifted that day in squat. They have to do leg curls or something like that. So let's say it's 200 pounds in a leg curl. They might have to do 100 or 200 reps of that. So people I think get away from, they think of that one end of the strength where like they think that strong is the max number, the one rep thing. But what they don't understand for someone like me, if I was testing you when you first came in for strength, I would test you on your 1 RM or close, like if you're not trained.
For those of us who are like totally not in this, what does RM mean?
Rep max.
Okay, thank you.
So when you test, Angie tests her athletes periodically, like probably every 4 to 6 weeks. Is that correct?
Oh, okay. Cool.
So when they test, they don't go to absolute failure because you have weight, right? So you're not going to like a 1 rep max, but a 1 rep max would really tell you how much weight can I squat or deadlift or bench press, whatever it is. For me as a strength coach, when I would test someone like Jeremy, when he would come in, I would test him on near a 1 rep max. And then I would use the science to say, what is 85% of his 1 rep max?
Okay.
85%, I know as a strength coach, he should be able to do 5 reps of that.
Okay.
So if I put that weight on and he can only do 3 reps of that, that's telling me he doesn't have the cardio end of it. A strong person like my wife, if I put 85% on, she might do 7 reps because it's light to her. She's used to playing on the other end of the spectrum, the heavy. And then I would take it and I would go to like 70%. 70% for us strength coaches we know is around 10 reps. So if I put 70% on the bar and I have Jeremy, he can only do 7 or 8 reps. Again, he has no engine.
I see.
Someone who has a big engine, if I put 70% on the bar, they might do 20 repetitions if they're an endurance athlete. You know what I mean? But if I get up to that 1 rep or that 85, they probably would only get 1 or 2 reps. They wouldn't get the 5 they should.
Right. It's kind of where your sport takes place along that spectrum. Like, do you need to move a lot of weight really quickly and that's it?
Yeah.
Or is it, do you need access to your strength over a longer
So what I would say in knowing Jeremy, as long as I've known him and his brother Josh, is Jeremy's more in the middle of all of it. Like he can be a really good endurance because of the mindset stuff, but he's really a middle of the road athlete. Josh is the same way, but Josh has tendencies to be more of the faster twitch one. Probably because he runs on pure sugar.
Used to, not so much anymore. He's got a good nutritionist.
But Josh is more of a fast twitch athlete.
He's always been a more explosive athlete for sure.
So the fast twitch athlete will be able sometimes to lift more weight relative to body weight, but they will burn out quicker. His tendency to throw up is because he runs on a faster engine.
Interesting.
So he blows his engine up too soon. Where it's the rabbit versus the hare, maybe a little different analogy because you're not hare, you're the middle of the road animal, but like the rabbit.
The tortoise versus the hare?
Yeah.
Because the rabbit and a hare are almost the same thing.
Yeah.
Just making sure I don't know my
Well, you could throw a dog in there or something too.
Whatever.
Jeremy's probably more in the middle. He might not catch the rabbit.
He's
but
not. We're not calling you a tortoise.
You can call me whatever you want.
But my point is,
Thank you.
most athletes have no idea where they're really at.
Yeah,
they
that's so
all
fascinating.
think that they're the rabbit, and 90% of them are not the rabbit. They're not the turtle either, but they're somewhere in
I'm
between.
the dog too.
Yeah.
Jen's she's the rabbit.
So
It
for
kind of
you,
matters what kind of dog you would be.
yeah. So for you are constantly searching for either more endurance or more strength. So I feel like you fluctuate, but that both of them help you is what you have to understand because of where you're at. It's just a matter of the sacrifice, because if you're going to get in really good shape and be able to go really long endurance, you're going to lose some strength. It's just bound to happen.
Yeah.
If you want to be really, really strong, you're not going to have the engine. And that's the stuff I think even Angie struggles with at times because she wants her cake and wants to eat it too. And you can get there, but when you get there, it's going to be years in getting there, not weeks or months in getting there.
Well, it's what you have always told my brother and I is that it's, what layers are you folding into the steel of your sword? And I always think about that like, when I trained, you can really tell when you train for something that's kind of nutty. Like I did an ultramarathon. That was like a weird layer that I folded in that was way outside of the norm of what I've done. And then doing like a lot of yoga, it's weird because like everybody I don't want to like stereotype, but it seems like people get very loyal to whatever it is that they do. So the yoga folks will say, this is the best thing ever for you. The CrossFit people will be like, CrossFit is life. Jiu-jitsu say, no, it's all about this. And then runners say, no, it's all about running. Or it just doesn't matter. But it's like, you kind of, you need to mix it up and depends on what you're trying to do.
Right.
Absolutely. The yoga people, yoga is super good for you. But what they fail to realize is they're not doing any high impact anything. The high impact stuff like running, if you're running from an animal or any of that stuff, is about bone density.
Yeah.
So yoga, if you don't get the jarring and the pounding and that stuff, then, as strong as they might be in their core and stuff, they can still get weak bones and brittle, especially the older clients and stuff, because the first thing you lose as you get older is speed. It's the first thing your body, and a lot of that is because of flexibility, honestly. And on the nutrition side would be hydration and other stuff cause it too. You're not getting the same hydration, so
Yeah, and digestive capacity and a lot of other things come into play.
So your muscles work on a lot of the electrolytes and stuff. So if you don't have enough of that as you get older, you tend to sacrifice it with poor diet and all that kind of stuff. You don't have as much water, so your muscles aren't as pliable as they were when you were younger. So the flexibility goes a lot of times because of hydration.
But if you have flexibility and you don't have the bone density, then you can get injuries because like your muscles are strong,
Right.
but
your
then,
bones are not.
Exactly.
So my point of that whole thing is if you had somebody who was like the best yogi possible and they wanted to get in better shape, I would make them do more jumping and pounding or sprinting might be the other end of their workout. The opposite of what they're doing.
And what I've noticed is a lot of, like, I got way more range of motion through yoga and like flexibility, which translated immediately into strength and conditioning. I get deeper into squats. I was stronger, but I feel like they would have a lot of margin to do some pounding and their body could handle it really well because you've got this built-in recovery mechanism, which is yoga, and that's all super nice.
Yeah.
So
And I also liked what you said a minute ago about kind of, you didn't say this, but I'm paraphrasing, integrating both sides into you, because you were kind of saying Jeremy goes one way or the other, and you want to kind of accept you for all of you. And it's so you don't have to be, like you said, locked into one extreme. This is how you do it. There's a whole lot of facets that come into being
I
yourself.
respect Jeremy and Josh a lot. Like I've trained a lot of athletes over the years, and when I got them into the best shape that they were in, they had an engine that would go for a long time.
it was so sweet.
More than any of the other. I would have athletes that would start workouts like the football guys they would work out with, and they might be a little bit more explosive in the beginning of the workout, but they would be dying at the end of the workout. Jeremy and Josh are just like,
We're good.
talking,
We're good.
humming a tune, whatever, having a conversation. Those football guys were dying by the end of the workout. Yeah. So they'd come out of the gate fast, but they were nothing for finish it. So even for those athletes, what they didn't understand is they might be first quarter players or first half players, but by the fourth quarter,
Toast.
they were done. Right?
Yep.
They had nothing left. So that's where the whole, coming full circle to your clients, like you have to build an engine. It's all about building that engine of consistency and stuff, and range of motion and all those good things. People really don't have to get into weightlifting at all to get into shape. It's what they don't understand. Like that's kind of a bonus if you want or need something else out of it. But to be strong, strong is a relative term. Like strong can mean can you do 100 bodyweight squats?
Right.
Like someone that can do that versus someone that can't do that. You get people in the gym to this day that they might be able, like you're talking about with some of those guys, like Josh will see him lifting 315 for 5 reps. It'd be like, okay, let's put 135 on the bar and I want to see you do it 20 times in a row. Those guys would probably not be able to walk the next day
Interesting.
because they have no engine. They're used to lifting 1 or 2 reps and racking it and that's it, but they don't do the things
Talk
they
for
need.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
You kind of said something earlier too, Angie, about not having and like your goals don't have an end line. There's no finish line for a lot of those things. With my clients, it's very true, and I use this analogy with them. I say this whole process, working with me, achieving these health goals you've got, is like running a race, but not against the clock and not against anybody else. It's just about crossing that finish line. I don't care if it takes me 10 years or 10 days or whatever to get across that. We're just going to be building layers and taking that steady steps forward. That's the end goal.
I agree.
And there's a good Jordan Peterson quote. It's don't compare yourself to who somebody else is today. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday.
Yeah.
I think that's
So that's
great.
like people look at Instagram, they see The Rock, and they're like, let's do that. And you're like, you cannot even come close to what that guy's doing. That's years and years and years of someone being a high level athlete moving in one direction.
Yeah.
And maybe some steroids.
Well, Andy, that's what he gets paid to do. He gets paid to work
Right,
out
that's his
every
job. You
day,
mentioned
and
that
he
before,
has,
too.
he has probably multiple trainers. He has a nutritionist. He has people making sure he's not eating the wrong thing on top of making sure. When they talk at the highest level in your programming, they probably have exactly dialed in how many repetitions of everything he's doing, so they know how much weight he's doing, how many calories he's burning, how many calories he's putting back in. When you get to some of those levels, it's it's a lot of science stuff.
So I have I was saving this for the end of the show.
Oh,
I have a
okay.
little case study for the table.
Oh.
This is like dessert.
I don't even know about this.
Yeah, it's what involves you. So
Oh.
you're not but I need your input.
Okay.
So this has happened a couple times where I've had guys that I've gotten into jiu-jitsu that their bodies were not ready for jiu-jitsu. So I feel somewhat responsible for
It's true. Yeah. I can think of a few
some
of those.
people having an unpleasant time. But this happens all the time. It's the same with the CrossFit on
It would happen
ramping
in
thing.
anything you do. You're using different muscles than they're used to.
So one of the issues is there's two guys that I know specifically that have a similar issue. They are like 6'2", 6'3", 140 pounds, complete bean poles. One of my buddies, he was on my last show. He got his sternum cracked. A guy put knee on belly, and he had both of his shoulders on the ground. And you never do that when you're in jiu-jitsu.
Yikes.
But if you're new,
Yeah.
you don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And the
I
guy
do.
just put his weight down and cracked his sternum. So it's
Yikes.
like super
Yeah, not fun.
not pleasant. So anyway, he had to take a little break. And then I was like, I have another kid that, shout out to Nick. This is for you, buddy. He's similar build, and he's trying to like put on weight and like get more muscular because he's doing Muay Thai and he's also rolling jiu-jitsu. And when you roll jiu-jitsu, you're starting to roll with like, he rolls with me. I'm really nice. I'm not going to beat the crap out of him, but I have like, I'm like rolling around like 212 right now. So I've got quite a bit of weight. And if there's a lot of big guys in my gym, there's a big difference when you have that amount of weight on those guys, and they have no muscle. To me, it's like armor. It's like if there's something to that, like where you need to have enough to do what you got to do. So as those types of guys come in, and these aren't like former high level athletes, they're just skinny dudes. So it's like, how do you go from like what's a good reasonable and partly it's like some of them go about putting on weight like, oh, I just need calories and I need to train, which like there's some of that, but one of the guys that I know drinks a gallon of Wawa milk a day because he's like, I just need the calories. And I was like, how are you even standing? I would just be crapping my brains out with Wawa milk.
Oh, that's terrible.
So the assignment would be, how do you on-ramp somebody like that into a sport that's as demanding as jiu-jitsu when they're so severely outsized? And it would be, I wouldn't give the same advice to girls because they're not trying to mass up, but there are girls that come into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You just got to like approach it a little bit differently because they shouldn't be rolling with a guy who's 300 pounds anyway. That's just not part of the deal.
Yep.
But like, so specifically for these dudes, like what would your advice as far as like weight gain and stuff?
I would probably advise against the Wawa milk.
Well, where do you want to start?
Well, let's go from the like kind of the strength and conditioning piece of it, and then we can kind of tag on diet if we want.
Well, the first thing I would have to do is test them to see where they're really at, because
Yeah.
with anybody, you got to meet them where they are. You know, that goes for anything you're doing. So I would start with, like, let's say body weight is the easiest one, so a push-up test, right? So they would have to be able to demonstrate that they can do, you know, probably at least 20 push-ups unbroken, all the way up, all the way down. If they can't, then that's something that they need to be doing more often. So it's one of those things where, like, for someone like them, it might almost be kind of like the warm-up stuff that we used to do, which is like 15 minutes, but they may have to do it 5 days a week, right? And they may have to do it in the morning when they get up, and then possibly before they walk into jiu-jitsu class, and then maybe even when they're done jiu-jitsu class to kind of catch up, so to speak, because it's about total repetitions, like total amount of work that you're doing, really, not necessarily in one workout. So for someone like them to kind of catch up or get to that point, I would probably just recommend like multiple small workouts, because it's not going to completely have to change their diet if it's going to be 2 hour long workouts a day. Now you're talking completely changing a lot of things, but so that would be the one thing. So for both of them, I would tell them to do push-ups to failure every other day to start with.
Okay.
And on top of that, I mean, probably if they want to do the same thing with the low body, it would have to be like single leg, so probably lunges. So I'd probably do lunges on one side until it burned and they didn't want to do them, and then maybe do the push-ups, and then maybe come back to the other leg for lunges.
Gotcha.
But and then keep track of them. Like, they want to know how many reps they're doing, because they're gonna, if they do it every other day for the first week, let's say it's just 3 days a week to start with, they're gonna do those 3 days, take the weekend off, start again. So if it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, do it the next Monday. They should be able to bang out more than they did the first
right.
Monday.
So you need to keep your metrics.
Right, but the first Monday to that Wednesday, the Wednesday might go down.
Yeah.
And potentially the Friday may go down from the Wednesday too, depending
Yeah.
on how in shape or out of shape they are. But that following Monday with the rest, and if they get some nutritional help with you and stuff in the in-between stuff, the following Monday they're going to improve.
Gotcha.
And then once they get to a point, I would give them a plateau or a certain point where now it's going to have to be either add weights to it, or you do push-ups till you go to failure, and then you drop to your knees and you do girl push-ups to failure. So you're adding,
I love
sorry,
that.
it's not
That was
girl
the
push-ups.
best face.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
Modified push-ups.
Modified push-ups.
Modified.
Yeah. Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Dude, I know a lot of guys who can't do actual push-ups. They have to do modified push-ups.
Well, and-
so does it make them girls?
Well, it may
And
take
girls,
it.
I know a lot of girls who can do regular push-ups. They don't have to do modified
Yes,
push-ups.
but it is about your right. It is about your strength to weight ratio. So
Yeah.
you need to be. So
Yeah.
for those people, before they need to worry about beating on someone like you that's above their weight class, are they even strong for their own body weight?
Yeah,
Right.
that's a really
So
good
Okay.
point.
The
That's a good
yoga,
point.
the yoga helps obviously because it's the time under tension,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with the muscles. But like I said, they need like the repetitions in, like Angie said, full range of motion is the key. So push-ups, I would probably do push-ups, the horizontal row, which is the opposite. Like if you're under a barbell and your feet are up, pulling your chest up to bar.
Yeah, yeah.
And then some kind of legs. The lunges kind of hit the quads and the hamstrings, so lunges are probably good enough for the legs. But you would want to push and a pull for the upper body, and then just the lunges would probably be fine for the legs.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, that's
Figuring
something
maybe
they, if they added on 3 times a week, you know, at least once a day, every day. And then eventually they could, after maybe 2 or 3 weeks, bump it up to 5 times a week. They would probably start catching up to what they want to be able to do in your
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu class pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sounds like a good plan. Do you have anything on the diet side if someone weight gain or you do not want to tackle
Yeah,
on
the
stuff?
diet side, honestly, I think the most simple thing I can offer, we've touched on it a couple of times already, is hydration, which sounds really ridiculous when you're talking about gaining weight or not gaining weight. But if you're constantly dehydrated, your muscles are not going to have the same volume. They're not going to be able to recover. They're not going to be able to be smooth and supple, like you said. They're going to, one of the roles of water in the body is so that your muscles are pliable, just like you said, and to cushion your joints. So it's going to be helpful for, so many people are so severely dehydrated. They think drinking milk counts as water. It does not. They think drinking coffee counts as water. It does not. So if you're adding a bunch of diuretics, or like maybe they're trying to recover and they don't feel good, so they're going to go drink an energy drink. That's super common. Like that's not going to help them at all.
Yeah.
So hydration is a really big factor. And the other one that I'm going to come back to, hold on before I move on. Hydration. What does that mean to be well hydrated?
Right.
The general rule of thumb for most people is to drink half of your body weight in ounces of water every day. Just water, not other stuff, not water, mixed with cranberry juice or whatever.
Well, and you're
Plain
talking
water.
also about, just to add something to that, those guys that are now working out,
Yeah.
if they're not even doing what you're talking
Right.
about before that, now they're adding working out on top of it. Now
And
you're
sweating on top of
Right.
that, right? So you're losing water and electrolytes. You mentioned that earlier,
Yeah.
minerals.
That's how your muscles fire, is what people don't understand. So you want to
Yeah.
go for a long hour jiu-jitsu class, if you don't have the electrolytes
Yep.
from water in your system, your muscles
Yep.
don't work.
And a lot of us also don't have good electrolytes in our water system to begin with, or we're drinking ultra purified water, which is great because you've removed contaminants. But in order to replenish the electrolyte balance, sometimes you have to add them back into your water. They sell, electrolyte supplements, but one of the best electrolytes used for this type of thing is sodium, right?
Yes,
and
yeah.
all you have to do is take a little pinch of unrefined salt, sea salt, Himalayan salt, whatever, and drop that into your water. If you taste salt in your water, that's too much. It doesn't taste salty, but a little tiny pinch can do a huge amount of help to repair and replenish water stores in the body, right? And go back to your muscles, all these things.
Yeah.
So that's our baseline, half your body weight. But if you're sweating, if you're working out, if you're drinking coffee in the morning, diuretics, you've got to replace some of that water. So a diuretic beverage is any beverage that takes more water from your body to process it through your system than it receives from the beverage to begin with. Common diuretics are coffee, tea, most teas, some herbal teas don't count, alcohol,
Yep.
carbonated beverages like soda, these types of things, really sweet beverages, sugary drinks, and juices can take more water from your body. And sometimes milk, it depends on the type of milk you're drinking, can take more water from your body to process it through your system than it receives. So you've got to replenish that water source. That's the first baseline I do with anybody, especially if if you have any goals, fitness goals of any kind, you have to get hydration dialed in.
I like it.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I actually had a client, I'm going to go off on a story. I had a client one time who had horrible arthritis, terrible. I only saw her a couple of times. She would have to ice her hands in the morning for an hour before she could turn the doorknob to get out of her door. Such pain. But she was drinking, turns out, a huge amount of diet soda and very little water, maybe 4 ounces of water in a day, and like 2 liters of Diet Pepsi. So
Her blood pH was probably
horrible.
way
Everything was
the
so
wrong way.
sad. And I only saw her a couple times because, finances, whatever things. At the end of our time together, she was drinking a grand total of about 30 ounces of water. She had reduced her diet soda intake to maybe 12 ounces. She needed her treat for the day, whatever.
Yeah.
And she could then, 95% of her pain was gone. She had pain management doctors. She had lidocaine patches. She had injections, all these terrible things. And no one once asked her about her water.
Right. Yeah.
Hydration.
Good for you.
I know. Good for her.
Good for her, but I'm glad you caught
people
that.
don't understand that. Like you said, the hydration needs to be your starting level, and then if you're putting sugary drinks on, it pulls water out of your body to break down sugar.
Yeah.
So that means that you're, like you said, if you're not even getting the bare minimum, and then you're doing all these sugary drinks, and the sodium from all the food people eat is high in sodium, that's pulling water out. I mean, yeah, your water definitely needs to be a focal point.
Yeah. And sodium from processed foods is different than sodium from a natural sea salt because that is sodium chloride created in a lab, and that's it. There's no other minerals to buffer that and help your body absorb differently. If you use a little pinch of sea salt, you have a spectrum of other minerals mixed in. It's not pure sodium. So your body's going to interact with that a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And the next factor, the second thing that I would do is look at their basic digestive function. Because minerals, electrolytes are minerals, right? Which are little itty bitty tiny bits of rock. And those are very hard to break down and absorb if they're not small enough for the body to uptake, right?
Yep.
Digestive capacity matters there too. If you don't have really good hydrochloric acid function, which is a basic mix of digestive juices, so to speak, you cannot break down and absorb your minerals. They will pass right through you. And those minerals, those electrolytes are super important for recovery, for even just like feeling normal and healthy, let alone recovering from strenuous or even beginning the process of strenuous exercise.
Yeah.
Having the ability to digest, break down, and absorb those minerals is totally clutch. So that's where I would start with anybody, is work on some hydrochloric acid function. That's before we even get to diet. That's where you were saying, what are the diet things you can do?
Right.
Calorie increase, whatever. That all matters, but if you are not hydrated and if you can't break down and absorb the nutrients from your food, it doesn't matter what you're eating, almost.
Yeah, it comes back to, I remember one of my strength coaches used to say that, like, you can't put like a Corvette body on a VW.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't work.
It doesn't
So
work.
you see all these people that go to the gym and they're like, oh, I want to like get in shape and I want to get super buff, but they're not doing the basic things,
Yep.
like for like Angie and I, like when we go to like even like High Point, like just watching people warm up, like just drives me nuts
Cringe.
because it sets up your whole workout, and like they're not doing, first off, they're probably not even breaking a sweat, so they're not doing a proper warm-up. They haven't, the whole point of a warm-up is to increase body temperature. The point of increasing body temperature is once you get your body temperature up, your muscles move better, right, overall, and you have more blood flow and all that kind of stuff. So people don't even do the bare minimum of that to start with. On top of that, a real warm-up should have that cardio zone we talked about. Like, you should be there for 5 to 7 minutes. Meaning, like, I know, like I said, Jeremy can get through our whole warm-up in 5 minutes, but his heart rate is up because he's moving through. It's going one thing to the next and no rest in there. So once you get to that point, like, you need at least 5 minutes, right? Not just like, oh, I'm going to do 10 jumping jacks. All right, now I'm going to start adding weight and squatting.
Yep.
No, but after that, then you should be working on some kind of flexibility and or mobility. The difference being flexibility is muscle related, mobility is your joints.
Okay.
Right? Like, they go hand in hand, but like, you need to work on, especially as once you get over the age of 30, let's say, like, you really need to be working on those things because of, think of how much time we spend sitting in a chair for most of us in a day.
A
like
lot.
It's probably 6 to 8 hours. I mean, if you're driving,
More. I would say more than that.
I mean, even, my wife drives an hour each direction, so she might not be sitting in the chair at work, but like, she spends 2 hours a day sitting and shifting back and forth, and all those bad postures you're in. Like, so you need to undo those things at a bare minimum, right? So I tell people, if you're sitting in a chair for 6 hours a day, you think that the 5 minutes you just spent stretching really just undid everything you did today.
Right,
Probably
exactly.
not.
Like, you haven't even addressed it. That, the same thing with your water thing. Like, you need to address the bare minimum things. Like, if people can't do a full squat all the way up and all the way down, they need to be addressing something, or they're not going to be able to get stronger.
Right.
It's your body's way of telling you something's not working right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just think a lot of self-evaluation. Like, I think some people need to slow down, work on getting full range of motion and everything. Like, don't worry about the weight stuff until you can squat, all the way up, all the way down. Is do a full push-up, full range of motion, that kind of stuff. And then from there, I think that they just need to slowly build on those basic movements. People got it so far away from calisthenics. The Army has made a living. Our government's Army has made a living on calisthenics. Like, for people that don't know what calisthenics are, it's really just movement is all calisthenics are. Like, jumping jacks are still great. Like, I can put people in doing bare, like, little things like that, and it is one of the best cardio things you can do at the end of a workout, because you can do them for a long time. That's what people have to understand. That's what real fitness and stuff is. Like, you should be able to, like, if I put anybody through just like even like jumping jacks or something easy like that, you should be able to do 20 minutes of something like that without batting an eyelash of it. That's what real fitness would be.
Yeah,
Right.
that reminds me, last time we were in Hilton Head, we had a treading water contest. I can tread water for hours and hours. I was like, no problem. And Jeremy starts gassing, and I'm like, something physical I can beat you at. The only thing.
I don't think I was as buoyant. Like, I don't know. But you smoked me in that for sure.
So, but that's what you made me think of. You should be able to do that forever and ever. It should not be a huge tax on the body. You can do those things.
Well, and even daily living thing is what people, I think, really need to evaluate.
Yeah.
Like, can you get up and down out of bed? And this is something I struggle with, even with all the knowledge and experience I have with, like, my grandmother. Like, she was, as she got older, she was chair ridden. And every time I would go over, I would try and get her up out of the chair, go for a walk, even around the house with me or whatever, or on her walker. So at least she was not in that seated position.
Yeah.
She had to at least put some body weight up to do that stuff, walk around and that kind of stuff. But people have to understand, if they can't get up and down and, like, in and out of bed, or all the way down to the floor with your kid, like, and back up, if you can't get up there without, oh, this hurts or that hurts, well, you probably need to be working on a few things before you're worried about how much weight you're putting on the body.
Right, yeah. Start at the beginning. That's where you were asking for an on-ramping process. And it's things that Tim and I have suggested sound really basic, but all that matters. It still is like a layering process that totally... your two dudes I don't know if they're doing any of these things, And
Or
it's
enough of them. Right.
Or enough of them. It's like, and they're so simple. They're not... There's a very low barrier to entry to start doing some of these things.
Well,
building
even
these
I
layers.
think making it more accessible to people that are like new to athletics, new to fitness. I think sometimes the perception of fitness is you have to get everything perfect. Everything's got to be ultra dialed in. It's the same attitude that we've discussed earlier, where people have a diet and they're like, they have one cookie, so then they just are like, forget it, I'm just gonna eat the whole box and forget this whole diet. It's like, no, like, do what you can.
Yeah.
Do what you can.
Enjoy that
Lose
one cookie.
the all or none.
And like,
It's
lose
just
it.
not sustainable.
And I
It's
think-
gray, not black and white.
Exactly.
Well, and the
Right.
other thing to that is the psychology part of it. I don't think people understand. There's some good strength coaches that really will tell you that you can eat whatever you want as long as you don't have guilt to it, or you don't feel bad about it, because you're not changing your internal chemistry, with the guilt and all the other stuff. You're letting all these terrible hormones out that are, like, making it much worse. If you're just like, so what, it's a cookie or two, no big deal, like, it's not going to have the same impact on your body where you're like, oh my God, I went off, I had 2 cookies, I'm so stressed about all this other stuff. Like,
Completely agree with
people
you.
just need to take a breath sometimes. I mean,
like,
it's life.
Relax, man.
Yeah, life happens.
Yeah.
It's just I was reading a book about that today, about like people's gluten intolerance, whereas like all of a sudden everyone was reactive to gluten. It's like, relax, man. It's not like the best, but it's not killing everyone.
Yeah.
Like, but obviously you shouldn't have your whole diet be comprised of cookies, but that's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
but I think that's true. I tell my clients this all the time. If you enjoy the food you're indulging in, people come in all the time with all this guilt and shame language associated with food. I ate this bad food, or I was so bad, or this was terrible, and I wasn't good at all over the weekend, so don't pay attention to those food journals, like skip past those ones, whatever. I always tell them, no, if you indulge, you enjoy it, that your body literally interacts with that food differently. If you have a cookie and you love that cookie, if you have 2 or 3 or even 4 cookies and you really enjoy it, your body's going to digest and utilize and process that food way differently than if you eat the first cookie and you say, well, screw it. Now I'm just going to eat the rest of the pack of cookies because I ruined it. I'm bad. I'm evil. I deserve to feel this guilt and shame. No, not true. You enjoyed indulging in a cookie and it was fantastic, and you move on. You just keep making good choices after that, and it takes that heaviness away from it. And it is difficult though, because we grow up and we hear this all the time, right? Bad food, good food, cholesterol bad, eggs bad, this is good, low fats, this thing. Now they're just kidding, eggs are great, do that. All that's so confusing. If we can put a little bit of gray into the picture and say, if you're enjoying this, your body's going to interact with it better. Not to say live on cookies or
Right.
McDonald's all the time, but don't feel that guilt and shame. Remove that component, because food is food. Food is not a relationship. It's not a person.
Yeah. And people want that stuff less if they torture themselves about it so much too.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in peak shape, Josh and I would go straight from strength conditioning with Tim or 40 minutes of rolling and then go to Wendy's and get a Baconator and all this stuff.
There's a difference between health and sometimes peak shape.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, even too much exercise or being in peak shape isn't good for your body.
Yep.
You know, you can only sustain it for a certain amount of time, and
sustainability is the name of the game.
We're on a spectrum.
As
We
we're
are on a
getting,
spectrum.
it's given me more grace towards people that are moving into the world of fitness, as far as looking at it from a sustainable perspective. Where I think being younger was just let's run into this brick wall as hard as I can and see what happens.
I think that me saying the sustainable thing, it works for my athletes as well. I definitely take an approach where yes, I do testing and I do it so they know I know they're improving, so I can give them weights to base things off of when I'm not with them, so it makes it easier that way as well. But none of my athletes go out of any sort of weightlifting session feeling crushed. I can't come back and repeat. I mean, they may be sore the first couple days, if they haven't been doing those kinds anything for a while. Or my basketball team just started 3 weeks ago, and I mean, they were lifting in season, but they came back and they went from lifting twice a week to lifting 4 times a week. And even though they were I was these are the exercises you're doing, but you're choosing your own loads. Be smart, blah, blah, blah. As we're increasing and they're progressing and they're still choosing their own loads, and they're just gradually, I'm teaching them how to do that. It's not, we're going to test in 2 weeks, but it's just to see where you are right now.
Yeah.
And really, and this is helping them minimize the potential for injuries. But I mean, and there's some people that could jump higher and be stronger and fight others off the ball, but it's not coming them being successful. What they want to do right now which is basketball. It's not I'm giving them the ability to stay on the court and do those things and compete, but it's not about the number that they're getting in the gym.
Right.
And now they're starting to understand that, and that sustainability, that mindset. Princeton spends so much more time away from us than they do with us, and the summertime is such a big deal that I want them to learn and appreciate how to train over the summertime without me there, and it's such a critical time for them. And it's listen, you can do this and not feel terrible and it not be a drain on you. It's just part of your day, part of your life. You get in, you get out, you do these things, and this is going to help you come August and September when we start school again and we start back in basketball practice. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, it does to maybe what exactly that they're doing compared to your clients, but really the mindset is the same. I want them to take this and go with this and know that this is enhancing their performance or their health, and to keep doing it even beyond being an athlete.
Right. And a lot of times, particularly what they're learning from both of you guys, you college athletes, that's how they're going to train. Even when they're out of their sport, it's probably the base they're going to go back to. It's I know Angie taught me how to lift like this. Tim told me to, I still do stuff that we did way back in the day. It's still your core principles that I would say that you kind of form most of your workouts around, still how I train. Even if I'm not doing one of your specific workouts, because I just know this, where I know the logic behind it and I know why it works. And that's I think that's a super cool skill that a lot of people that are coming into, if I didn't train with you when I was 20, I would have kept lifting like a moron. Like it would have really been bad. No, seriously, because
I mean, you still do some things that are
it's not usually lifting related. It's when I stop doing that stuff. I've always gotten in trouble when I've been like, I feel pretty good. Let's see if I can flip this tire or whatever.
Let's run an ultra marathon. I remember when Tim told me
I
that
didn't
you were
get hurt
doing
at
that.
all during that.
I
It
know,
was
but
just
when
so
he told me
boring.
you were doing them, like, why is he doing that?
I thought the same thing.
Jeremy always has a secondary thing, and Jeremy did do that, but he also did it doing like minimalistic training.
Dude,
for
I
it.
did almost no training for that ultramarathon.
Yeah, and still beat 3/4 of the people that were in the ultra marathon.
I do need to, man. That still, I'm probably gonna have to go back and do that race and finish because it annoys me so much. Because I ran off course for like 2 or 3 miles in the wrong direction.
Oh.
It was the first year they had the race.
Yeah,
It
missed
wasn't
the
well
checkpoint.
marked.
So it wasn't flagged off well. So there was a part where you had to cross a road and they have these flags, and I came across the road. It was a big double lane road, and there was a flag in a bush across in a pathway, and I saw a flag down the road, and I just hooked a left, and you were supposed to go straight across the road into the woods, and I just kept running, and then I didn't see any more flags, and I was running for like
A while.
I don't know 30 minutes, and then you have to turn around and run 30 minutes the other way,
sucks.
and then I got a DNF at mile 40 because I got swept because I didn't have enough time. But then
Right.
I think over half the field in that year got a DNF, which means did not finish. They got swept, and then the following year, because this was the first year they ran that
Yeah.
race, the next year they increased the time by like 3 hours,
Yeah,
and
3
like
or 4
everything
hours.
got, because a lot of people weren't.
They were
finishing.
still figuring it out.
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
like
yeah. So I would like to do that course at some point with the new guidelines, and I really think I could finish, but that annoys me. That's later.
Yeah, but
So-
what you were saying was there was a dualistic component to that. It wasn't
Well, no,
just...
the fancy term of what you guys are talking about, everybody's talking about now, is auto-regulation. And like at the highest level, like a lot of strength coaches are starting to talk about that kind of stuff. Like even the strength coaches at Princeton are going to seminars to talk about auto-regulation. But all it really is what Angie's talking about is knowing your body and listening to it after a while. But so I think a lot of your patients and stuff, or your people you're talking about, clients when they first get started, they have to use a guide to say, like, you know, if I got really sore from that workout, like maybe I need to scale that workout I did back a little bit. You know what I mean? Almost regress until I'm not getting sore from that, and then slowly add things to it before they, you know, just worry about jumping in like gangbusters. But yeah, I mean, it's funny, we go back to this reunion thing at Princeton every year, which is actually coming up over Memorial Weekend, and it's always funny to hear all her former athletes talk about how like they still do cleans at their local gyms, and like everybody's like looking at, now you're talking about like 6'2", 6'3" basketball girls, so they're tall and athletic, and now they're out of Princeton in their real jobs, and they're like, oh yeah, I still go in and clean like twice a week, and everybody's like, oh.
I get text messages about it. Or like I get athletes that are like, can you send me the summer manual?
Yeah.
Because it's just something that they know and they can do,
Yeah.
and they like a plan.
Yep.
They like a plan and they know how to do that plan. So I get
And
a
for
lot
her,
of those requests.
and for her athletes, like one of the things we always preach as strength coaches, it's easier to stay in some kind of shape than get out of shape. Be like, I want to
Yes.
get in shape. Like, just try not to get completely out of shape is the key.
It seems like the older you get, the more important it is to not to deviate too much into the
I
out of
never
shape.
wanted to get out of shape.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter what age I was. Like in my
Yeah.
20s, in my 30s, in my 40s, like I don't even look at it like that because I just always do it. I've made it a habit. It's
But
just
you have to
part of my
understand
life.
that, like the us now versus like this generation, like you grew up with your dad had a farm.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
so like you're doing manual labor things.
You grew
like,
up with some physical activity.
I mean, she had to
that was
use
challenging.
scissors to cut grass around the different bushes and stuff. So.
Tim's always like, you can do, and the only things that you can do are that are manual. That's the only thing that you're good at doing. Anything that takes a machine, you can't do. I'm like, hey, I am my father's daughter. He taught me to do it the manual way.
But my point about is the reason that you're such a workhorse is because that's all you did growing up
Yep.
was work, and that's not this. Like things have gotten
people
so
don't
easy
do
for
that
everybody,
anymore.
even us in this day and age.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to do the same amount of work we did when we were younger.
Yeah.
You know, like your lawnmower is self-propelled. You know, it's not a push like it was before. So
Or you have a riding one. one.
Right, exactly.
Or even like your car, everybody's car has power steering.
Yes.
Like that used
Yeah.
to not be a thing.
Yep.
That used to be
Yeah.
really hard to drive a
Yeah,
car.
that's why like those truck drivers and stuff back in the day were like strong people, because you had to turn that truck yourself, whether it's dump truck or whatever. In this day and age, like you said, everything is power. Everything has gotten easier, which is great. But what people don't understand is that means that you're doing less work
Yep.
overall. So
Yeah.
people need to get back into doing some kind of manual labor stuff. So
Well, I just think it's hilarious that so much of the functional workouts are simulated manual labor.
Yeah.
As someone that does
Yeah.
manual labor every
you and me
day,
Yeah.
both. I
find it-
laugh about
I
it.
find it
I
hilarious.
mean, they made a movie about it.
Yep, I laugh. I'm like, people pay
Oh, that
me
was
to,
waxing, not brushing.
yeah. It's still the same concept. Wax on, wax off.
Yeah, they're like, all right, for this whole workout today, for the next half hour, you're gonna pick things up and put them down somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're going to take this rag, you're going to clean all of these white things, clean the dust off those, please.
My brother and I
Yeah.
had this plan that we were going to open up like a fitness farm, and it would attract all of the hipsters that are into functional fitness and be like, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do.
Here's a
This
workout today.
workout, it's 10 hours long. You're going to come to my property at 6 a.m. and you're going to work it's the best workout. You get
Yeah.
back to, and like they would pay me to work on my farm.
Yeah.
I think
Like,
I
see
could
this
pull it
pile
off.
of dirt? You're gonna
Yeah.
put it in the wheelbarrow and you're gonna
Yeah.
move it to the other side
You
of the
see
farm.
this? You're going to take this rake and you're going to get these leaves over there.
Yeah.
See all these vegetables?
Pick
you
them
got
up,
to
put
pick
them in
all
the
of them.
But people have no idea. Like, I mean, even like, you know, when you're home on the weekends, like, I mean,
Yeah.
yesterday I did some stuff around the house. I was outside pretty much all day. Like, I built half a chicken coop inside our shed,
Cool.
cleaned up a bunch of stuff outside. But I mean, I was literally like on my feet outside for probably 6 hours yesterday. Like, I have muscles that are a little bit tired and sore today that I'm not used to. And I lift, you know, 5 days a week if I can. So, but just the different motions of pushing and
Yep.
pulling and doing these different things. So, you know, I think it's just about doing what you can. You know, like I said, like I would consider myself fairly fit, and I've still got sore from manual labor
Yeah.
stuff, and you know, so
Yeah.
I just think people need to. The other thing I would suggest is find things that they're good or that they enjoy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think enough people want to be like, oh, I'm going to start weightlifting and stuff. Like, do you like weightlifting? No. Why would you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you
Ride
enjoy
bu-
any part of that?
Right. Ride bike. Like, if you enjoy riding bike, even if it's just not go spin class, but like just ride around the neighborhood to start with. Like, go for walks, grab a friend if you need to, you know, like anything.
I would argue even cooking.
Yes.
Like, this sounds super lame, but like even knife work, like deboning a chicken, like working with meat, like just the actual mixing, all of that stuff, people are doing less of the cooking as well. And that was like a really, I mean, if you ever see like the old, like the cartoon of an old baker, those dudes are like huge shoulders because
yeah.
they're like tossing dough and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
just
you
like,
mean as a manual labor aspect?
yeah, it is like, and there's less cooking going on, I think, too, in food prep in general, but it can be like, there's a lot of scrubbing and chopping and moving things. I know it's not as much as like gardening, but a lot of those things can kind of go hand in hand. So
So
I
even
count
those
my
small
vacuuming
layers.
as exercise. I like work up a sweat.
Yeah.
I have a lot of dog hair to clean up. So.
that's true. Yeah.
Dog mom.
Yeah. Well, you guys have another, this is a tangent, you guys have, you're fostering 2 dogs now, too?
Yes. We,
Okay,
since
I
we,
missed that memo.
well, since we bought the new property, we bought a new house for us at least about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. And it's got 1.5 acres. The backyard is like a half an acre fence in, and we have 3 labs to start with, which is kind of why we bought the house. So, you know, I'm fairly big-hearted, so like I see all these like, you know, labs that need, or all these animals that need help and stuff, and you know, we were talking before about potentially like adopting another dog or doing something anyway. So we're like, well, why don't we at least start with the foster process, because then it's potentially temporary, and if we, you know, they don't find a home or we fall in love with them, so be it, they stay. But
A likely proposition.
We're not falling in love with the first 2.
we're prepared
There's
for
2 of
whatever
them.
happens. Yeah. But so we decided, okay, we're going to do this. So we went through the whole process, and then we decided, okay, well, we have 3 girls. So we're like, we think probably an older male would be the best fit, because he probably wouldn't take any crap from anybody.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to be somewhat like subdued because he's older, you know, like an older male's kind of be pretty laid back for labs and stuff. So we kind of got set in that. And then when we talked to the foster lady, that dog, I guess, found a home, which is great.
got
But then
adopted.
she was like, we have this other 2 that really need help. They're brother, sister, and they were not really, like, we wanted an older dog. They're both like 6. so they're like probably still at least enough energy and stuff, but it's 2 right off the bat, which I
2
guess we're going.
full-grown labs on top of 3 other full-grown.
They're like kind of the size of our dogs. It's nothing crazy.
They're not out of shape. They're like 70 pounds, so nothing too crazy. But yeah, as of next Friday, we will have 5 dogs. Right?
Yeah, it's gonna be
5
great.
full-size dogs.
Yeah,
Very, very. That's a lot of
Yeah.
animal.
Yeah.
that is a lot. But I mean, we have 3, so what's 2 more?
Yeah,
Yeah,
why not?
I've
When
kind
you
of
get
said,
to that amount,
why not almost
you know.
double it?
Well,
Right.
when we got to like 1 wasn't that big a deal. Then when I got a second one, like it became a little bit bigger deal. But then once you get a third one, it's like, what's 1 more at this point?
Yeah.
I mean,
We
it's-
really were thinking about adopting, but like Roxy's older, and I was like, you know what? She'll get really angry. Like I think Roxy's probably gonna be bothered by us starting this
Yeah,
anyway.
so Roxy is our chocolate lab. She is 11,
Yeah.
and she
I didn't know she was that old.
Yeah.
she's still spry.
She's
though.
awesome.
Yeah.
She's so great, but she's just doesn't want to. She tolerates Bailey.
I always
You know
say
what I mean?
she wanted to be an only child, and she's not.
Yeah, so
yeah.
this
You
is
can see it on
us
her
being like,
face.
oh, let's bring new dogs in and like get used to like new dogs and because I don't want it to age her.
Yeah.
Like if we automatically just adopt her right off the bat and like she got upset and it started aging her, I don't want her. I mean, I want another 5 years in that
Looks
dog.
at you like, how dare you?
Yeah,
Oh,
she
yeah.
will do
I
that.
don't
Well,
want to share.
I was in owning and running gyms and stuff. I bought the Sydney, my black lab, for the chocolate as a buddy. Like, oh, I'm not home enough. I'm gonna get her, kind of a buddy. I remember the day I put Sydney down. Now Sydney is the cutest little black lab. She is such a sweetheart. Like, I mean, like she is a total lap dog, like sweetest dog you'll ever meet. And Roxy went up and sniffed her and was like, "Pfft," and just turned and walked away. And I was like, oh man, what the heck?
Oh,
Not
God.
buddies.
Not
Yeah.
buddies.
I should have
I
checked
mean,
this.
they love each other now.
Well, they do now,
do.
but
How many
It took
years
her a while.
later?
Sydney does not play ball because Roxy ran her over when she was a puppy. Like, I mean, like knocked her on her side, knocked the wind out of her. So to this day, Sydney is like 8. Sydney
Yeah.
still does not play ball. Like,
Yeah.
if you throw a ball near her, she will run out of the way because she knows somebody's coming after.
Yeah,
Not
that's
my
the fastest you see, like Sydney move is running out of the way of the other 2.
I got this.
Yeah, she's just out of there. So she's such a sweetheart. But I still to this day, like Roxy, she loves us, but like, I mean, she tolerates Sydney, but our yellow one, Bailey, is still too much for her. Like, she'll put her in her place once or twice a week just to be like, all right, I've had enough of you.
Yeah.
I don't want to play with anything you want to play with. Get
Stay
away
away
from my
from me.
chair. Yeah.
So when are you getting the next 2?
On Friday.
Friday.
Wow.
Sweet.
Yeah, so we'll have the weekend to like acclimate and
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
let me know how it goes.
we will.
I'll have to come over and see
Yeah.
fun.
these new folks.
Yeah. So then hopefully, it's 2 weeks, I guess, after you foster that they can go up for adoption once,
Okay.
once we kind of sign off. And so we'll keep you posted because after
So-
that, they may need a home.
Are you guys the ones who get to do the write-ups for the adoption agency? Like, here's their personality.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
We're
And then,
supposed to keep
like,
like a running blog of
that's
them
fun.
and stuff, so that like
That's
when they're ready
awesome.
for adoption, we can kind of say, okay, well, this one's got this personality, this one has this one, and
And also, if we
That's
like
fun.
take them to like a meet and greet, so people can look at them, and 2 families want them, like they let us decide who we really think that they should go with because we spend the time with, which I think is cool. I mean, they've been
Yeah.
living with us, so if we feel like which family's the better pick,
Yeah, that's cool.
we want them to have the best home,
yeah.
Cool.
So I think it's our first venture in, but probably not our last.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, when
Like a
Angie was a
great
kid,
process.
she used to tell her parents all the time that she wanted to own a dog farm. So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah. So
making
we're
a venture
close.
You're
towards
getting
that
close.
this
Yeah.
Yeah, Serena and I are going to be, I think we would like a property similar to the one that you guys have. And that's going to be a huge problem as soon as we get the property is like, I would say yes to like any
All the
dog.
animals.
I'd be
I
like
could
all
bring
of them.
anyone
And I'd be
Yeah.
like, if you brought a puppy home, I'd be like, this is a terrible idea, but they can stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You heard me also say that I built a chicken coop.
I did.
Right,
I was
yeah.
going to
Yeah.
ask you
That's
about
Two
fine.
that.
new dogs, and yes, I built half our shed is a chicken coop. So probably
Nice.
next weekend or the week
So
after.
good.
And he
we'll have-
also put we put a fence like down the hallway, like so
Oh.
like the dogs like so we could set. It looks cool. Like it's.
That's awesome.
I mean, our house is just perfect for it. So like
So
we're just looking forward to helping.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
So you can write on the dog's resume or whatever, their write-up, you can say, good with chickens.
Yeah.
Good with chickens.
Well, and we
Didn't
keep kind
eat
of
the
expanding.
chickens.
The people out back behind us have like probably 7 or 8 acres off to our right that they don't use, and it's got an old barn on there. So I keep saying, Angie, I was like, I think I'm gonna knock on their door this summer and be like, hey, you think we could use that or rent it off you? Because I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I wouldn't mind raising, a pig, and
Yeah.
That's the move.
Very cool.
That's the
Yeah.
move because
Very
I want to
cool.
do chickens. This is a different podcast. We'll come back to it later.
Yeah.
But chickens, pigs, And like you could just do one pig, and that would be enough.
Yeah.
I would probably
Oh,
do
they
one
need a
pig.
buddy.
Well, I would
Somebody
get them
told me
mini
they need a
goats
buddy.
because I like
Oh,
mini
really?
goats. So the mini goats would
Oh,
go with
okay.
Oh,
that's
we want
the
a
buddy.
mini goats. Yeah, we definitely want them. But they need a buddy.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, they
Actually,
they-
pigs do. But well,
Yeah.
it's one of y'all's friends that raise the pigs too. They
Yeah.
usually do like at least 2 at a time.
Yeah.
So
Well, he's got 3 because the first one he got they named Princess, so that one did not leave.
Oh.
So yeah,
They named it.
yeah. So there's been a couple that have come and gone from there, but Princess is still there.
That's so funny.
She's the permanent
resident-
buddy.
Yeah,
the
permanent
resident
buddy.
pig.
Probably permanent at this point. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Hey, well, I think we covered a wide smattering of topics. I
Yeah.
think we did. You
Stayed
get
mostly
everything?
on tack. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
great.
It's good stuff. Sweet. Well, super appreciate you guys being on. It was awesome, and I'm sure we'll have you back on in the future.
Always a
Sweet.
pleasure.
Love it.
Yeah,
So,
thanks.
thanks, guys.
Yep.
Well, there you go, folks. I hope you all enjoyed that conversation as much as Serena and I did. We always enjoy our time talking with Tim and Ange, so big thanks to them for coming and spending their Sunday afternoon with us. It was a most enjoyable experience. And if you all enjoyed the conversation, I would encourage you to share it around the interwebs. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube. You can also follow all of our show shenanigans on Instagram at The Painter and the Pixie. And we'll have kind of some more things coming out on all of those channels as we progress through this year. It will be Serena and I just back, just her and I next week, talking about Lord knows what. But yeah, in the meantime, y'all stay out of trouble, enjoy yourselves, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.
Amazing.